Hi, and welcome once again to Friday Focus, where we do not focus on what is seen, but on what is unseen. Friday Focus is continuing its look at the Psalms. Today we're going to have a look at Psalm 101. I call it the power of I will. Two words that make all the difference in life are the words I will. They hold immense power to drive change, foster commitment, and inspire action. And as David writes Psalm 101, he uses those two words often, at least 11 times in my New Living Translation. That repetition isn't accidental. In Psalm 101, David isn't merely expressing feelings, he's declaring intentions. He's not reacting emotionally in a moment of inspiration. He's setting a course for his life. Let's consider what David commits himself to and how those same I will declarations shape our everyday lives. If we take a look at verse 1, we see that David says, I will sing of your love and justice. Lord, I will praise you with songs. David begins with worship before he addresses leadership, integrity, or discipline. He commits himself to singing of God's love and justice. Those two attributes balance each other. Love without justice becomes permissive, and justice without love becomes harsh. In everyday life, what we sing about and what we focus on shapes us. In this modern world where some of the songs of these modern groups are so racy and sexually explicit, it's no wonder that some of the lives of the young people are shaped by the times they're young adults. When we intentionally remind ourselves of God's steadfast love and righteous ways, it reshapes our perspective. How, you might ask? Well, something like, I will worship even when I don't feel like it, or I will remember God's character when circumstances are confusing. What does it teach us? Simply that praise isn't just a reaction, it's a decision. Number 2 is found in the first part of verse 2. I will be careful to live a blameless life. The phrase, be careful, implies intentiveness and thoughtfulness. Integrity doesn't just happen by accident, it requires watchfulness. A blameless life doesn't mean a perfect life, it means a life of consistency and sincerity. The private life matches the public life. David's question, when will you come to help me, recognizes that integrity is lived in God's presence. Realizing that God sees us transforms us, how we act when no one else is watching. So, in practical terms, it teaches us several things. I will guard my thought life. I will conduct my business honestly. I will speak truthfully, even when exaggeration would benefit me. I will choose purity in what I watch and what I listen to. Integrity begins in small, unseen choices. Number 3 is in the last part of verse 2, where David says, I will lead a life of integrity in my own home. Before David speaks about governing a nation, he speaks about governing his household. Character begins at home. It's easy to project an image in public. It's harder to practice patience, kindness, and self-control with family. Yet David commits himself to integrity in his most familiar environment. Our tone at the dinner table, our words during a disagreement, the humility we model in apology, these form the spiritual climate of our families. What do we learn? Well, I will choose gentleness at home. I will apologize when I'm wrong. I will prioritize my family over reputation. And there's an interesting thought that comes out of that whole section of verse 2. Revival often begins in the living room before reaching the sanctuary. Number 4 is found in verse 3. David says, I will refuse to look at anything vile and vulgar. I hate all who deal crookedly. I will have nothing to do with them. What do we allow before our eyes? Long before the digital age, David understood what we look at shapes our desires. Our eyes are gateways to the soul, that is the mind, the will, and the emotions. What we consistently expose ourselves to forms our imagination, influences our standards, and eventually directs our actions. David's I will calls us to intentional boundaries. What kind, you ask? Well, how about I will filter what I consume? I will turn away from what diminishes my soul. I will protect my mind from what corrodes my character. I think the central thought is that holiness isn't merely avoiding sin, rather, it's intentionally cultivating purity. Number 5 is found in verse 4. I will reject perverse ideas and stay away from every evil. Notice the proactive language. He doesn't say, I hope evil stays away from me. He says, I will stay away. That's personal responsibility. Perverse ideas begin subtly. Everyday living requires discernment. Not every opportunity is beneficial. Not every voice deserves influence, and not every trend aligns with God's design. What does this look like when we use the words I will? Well, simply, I will evaluate what I allow to influence me. Or I will step back when something threatens my spiritual health. The thought behind this is that distance from evil is often the pathway to freedom. All right, in verse 5, we find number 6. David says, I will not tolerate people who slander their neighbors. I will not endure conceit and pride. David addresses relationships and commits to guarding the culture around him. Slander and gossip destroy unity and poison environments. In everyday life, this might mean refusing to participate in workplace gossip or redirecting conversations that attack someone's character. It might be choosing to verify facts before forming judgments. You see, words build words, words build worlds, rather. And that last one particularly struck home to me, choosing to verify facts before forming judgments. In our fact-starved world of fake news, this becomes important. Since words build worlds, we have to understand what David is trying to teach us. And that is, I will protect others' reputations, or I will speak life instead of criticism, meaning that we choose personal and relational integrity. All right, the 7th thing I see is found in verse 6. I will search for faithful people. David is intentional about who he surrounds himself with. You see, character is contagious. Faithfulness attracts faithfulness. Our everyday lives are shaped by the company we keep. And so there are several wills that we really need to make. Number 1, I will seek wise counsel. Number 2, I will cultivate friendships that strengthen my faith. Number 3, I will become the kind of person faithful people want to be around. You see, community isn't accidental, it's chosen. All right, number 8 is found in verse 7. I will not allow deceivers to serve in my house. This is a bold stand for truth. Deception corrodes trusts. Did you know that? A culture that tolerates dishonesty, it cannot flourish. You find in many of the third world and fourth world countries, there is complete corruption and deception and dishonesty. In our context, this means that we value transparency. We keep our word. We admit mistakes. We refuse to manipulate outcomes through half truths. What's the lesson? I will be honest even when dishonesty seems easier. I will align my speech with truth. Why is that important? Because truth builds stability. And finally, number 9 is found in verse 8. David commits to a daily task, and that is to ferret out the wicked. Again, it's a commitment of the will. I will deal with issues before they become strongholds. I will take responsibility for my growth. The lesson is that delayed obedience often leads to deeper compromise. So that's the power of I will. Psalm 101 teaches us that transformation begins with intentional declarations. David doesn't say, I might. He doesn't say, I'll try. He says, I will. So the question isn't whether I will has power. It obviously does. There's a much bigger question. What's that, you ask? Well, the bigger question is, will you will? This is Dr. Vic Hollyfriend. In his grace, if you have any comments or questions, you can address them to me at vixfridayfocus@gmail.com. That's vixfridayfocus@gmail.com. God bless you. Go out there and will.